Sir, hello.
Hello, sir.
How are
Hey,
we?
hey, hey. Oh, I am pretty good. Pretty good. How about you?
Not bad. It's another Monday, and as always, we do have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
I know you're going to be taking the reins on this one quite a bit. Meal timing and frequency. One of the more commonly, I'll say, misplaced efforts by people in the space. One of the areas that people tend to put a lot of emphasis on. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopeful that they will get some great insight today. I know they will.
Yeah, a fairly hot topic, I think, in like the health and fitness world. It seems like it's maybe not so much in the forefront right now, but there definitely have been ebbs and flows where people are absolutely preaching something that has to do with meal timing and frequency. And yeah, the big conclusion I think a lot of you guys are going to find is similar to a lot of our takes on other big fads or um, ideas like this, where influencers or people with big groups are pushing an idea, a product, or something that the juices might not be worth the squeeze. Um, we'll talk about it, how it applies to different situations and contexts, but gonna end up being another pretty moderate take from us, I think, Ryan.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it's not going to be any special sauce, but obviously we will explain why that is
Hmm.
and kind of try to summarize things in a way where you guys can take action as it pertains best to your individual situation, hopefully at least.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of the cool stuff is in the what I'm going to call like the non-significance at ports of this presentation, or I'm going to get on my little pedestal. I got some slides for you guys as per usual. Um, and the insignificance can be just as exciting as significant findings. These are just statistical tests that are designed to determine a p-value. If a p-value is low enough, we can statistically conclude that there was a significant change. And that's what a lot of research and academia kind of mm, puts on a pedestal as being really, really important for publishing. But I've found, especially when I did my research, that there's lots of implications and conclusions you can make if it's not significant. And a lot of times, it's much more actionable and applicable to the individual, the consumer, or like the general population. Like just from a very, very zoomed out perspective, if we examine 20 different groups and all the groups' outcome is relatively the same, you, the individual, should be psyched by that. That means you have so many paths forward, so many options to choose from that lead to very, very similar outcomes. So the big takeaway there is whatever you can actually adhere to and sustain. That's probably a phrase that's been uttered a million times here already, is going to be the best option for you. There's not going to be one secret ingredient or secret meal schedule or secret time to eat that's going to lead to anything magical.
Yeah.
Um, shit, I guess I shouldn't have actually gone that hard. That pretty much sums up my goddamn presentation.
Well, hey, for those who didn't catch all of that, yeah, we
Yeah,
could just jump right into it, and I'm sure people will pop in later.
yeah. Let's. What was the one thing I wanted to try this week? Maybe start with some hex talk, maybe some market talk, kind of like we were warming up with there in the background. That's what we did,
Yeah.
and then get into our topic. I think I've kind of shared before that I always have these tickers up here. I've got this Hex Daily Stats website, which is awesome. I see the ticker and it's got a ton of Unreal data. Some of the things that I always look at, the average stake length, T-shares that are actually available on the market. This has been decreasing forever. That's what I like to see. And this has been increasing forever. We're kind of plateaued in recent times. A gas chart, so I know exactly when I should go start my stakes. Right now, it's been pretty low for quite a while. If we look at like the last week, we've been below 80 on average the entire week.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how you know you're in a bear market,
yeah,
brother.
this is again one of those metrics I like to watch. I want to see a sustained increase in gas prices to like look for an actual turnaround or an actual bottom. Or I think the larger impact event here is going to be QE versus QT, like we mentioned in those uh, macros and markets episodes. I'm going
Hmm.
to watch for the Fed to shift their forward-looking ideas about rate hikes, basically.
Yeah, I'm still holding strong on August, man.
Yeah, so right around there is where we think is a pretty likely time that they'll start to talk about going back towards some sort of easing or some sort of loosening.
Dude, there was an update from Powell, and it was all around Twitter, and he said basically this, and we can pull up the video clip on Twitter if we want. And he goes, there is going to be a central bank digital currency coming in 2023. He said that it's coming in 2023. It's called Fed Now. Fed Now.
Really?
And it's been done and ready for many years. Like I said, they've been waiting for the correct opportunity, the right timing.
Yeah.
Fed Now is coming in 2023. And after careful observation of the US dollar as it pertains to the world reserve currency, it is important to shift into something like this, especially after witnessing cryptocurrency success, as is stablecoins. The clip is incredibly insightful, and I would recommend we play it tonight. Actually, forgot to mention that when we were in the background there. Yeah, that came over this weekend. Insane news.
That is crazy.
It's basically been confirming what a lot of people have been already predicting and planning for a while, getting their money out of the system, like Richard says, to get money off exchanges, right? Get out of current currencies that are kind of shitty, get printed to oblivion and are losing purchasing power, like the US dollar. It's just kind of letting you guys know that, that is coming. Like he literally, like it blew my mind. And he was just like, it's coming in 2023. Like straight up, very point blank. It's coming in 2023. How this gets rolled out, the aggressiveness of it, and what kind of economic state we're in is really my big curiosity. Because we know inflation's not going away. We know purchasing powers continue to get worse. And we know that times are going to get very difficult here in the near future. So once again, when there's enough pain being inflicted, people are open to change. They're open to being given help.
Yeah.
So that's I don't want to dive into it, but yeah, we could do that maybe at the end if you want.
Does he have?
I can search for that clip on YouTube or on Twitter rather.
Does he have a Twitter account? I was just kind of looking.
Powell, no. I think someone screen recorded him at one of the Fed chair meetings speaking.
Interesting. I'm surprised I didn't see anything about that. I wasn't super active this week. I was a little bit all over the place, but that's nuts. I'll check back up what I was looking at. This next thing I was looking at is the all-time.
Oh, I found the clip already.
Damn. Pull her up. Let's go. Hopefully my volume wasn't working the other day, was it?
Here, I'll have you. Oh, wait, I can't do it from here. I don't know if it works. If I play through Twitter, will it work?
That's what I tried to do, I think, the one time, and I think you said you couldn't hear it, but maybe yours will work.
Let's see if we can get it to work. Yeah, it happened just this past week. Hold on, I gotta pull it up real quick.
All right, I'll just ramble about my all-time Ethereum gas chart. So really what I'm looking at again is for this to be from here on out will give us a better picture. So this is back here is January 2020. Hex launched here December 1st or December 2nd, I guess, 2019. So right around in here. And that led us into what the market usually calls DeFi summer, where Uniswap really got popular. Hex was on Uniswap was like the majority of its trading volume from here, December until summer hit. So really we've been in a pretty big downtrend and now sustained low gas prices. Once we see sustained gas prices, I don't know, higher than 100, something like this is I think when we'll be pumping again, or something like this period, right? Down in here, there's not a lot of activity going on the Ethereum blockchain.
I got it up and ready.
All right, you ready? Here we go.
Okay. Do we need to do anything on it to have the volume?
I don't think so. Just try a play and see what happens here.
Can you hear it?
I can't. Frick.
Okay, so it has to be through here. Edit name, stop screen. Maybe chat knows? Settings. Audio. Okay, here we go. Speaker. No, that's not working.
No.
Does anybody in here know how to pull volume from this?
So right now you're sharing your screen. I don't know how to get. I don't think I have any controls on this back end.
How do I think it's an audio input source, I thought. Share slides, settings.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to choose StreamYard.
Does anybody in chat know how to pull volume? Let me see if he has. I'm trying to see if the text was there. Hold on. I'm gonna Google it quick.
Open up your music source in Chrome. In StreamYard, click Share, then Share Screen. Click Chrome tab. At the top, select your music tab. Click Share Audio. Did that make sense?
Music tab. I think you have to do it since you're running it.
Okay.
Music tab in StreamYard.
In StreamYard.
Yeah, I think it's in StreamYard on the right side.
I do not see it.
Oh, here we go. Is it working?
It is not.
Dang, you guys really need to hear this. How do I get this to work? YouTube,
Okay.
Twitter. I thought it was through StreamYard. We can go in there and do that.
I don't see anything about it on my end. Shoot. Shit.
Oh, I think I figured it out potentially. Choose what to share. Okay, let me try this again. Let me kill this. Share.
One more?
Yep. Window, Chrome tab. Yeah, I think I got it now. Twitter, share tab, audio. Okay, I got it.
Come on. Let's go.
Pull me back up. You guys gotta hear this. We'll talk about what this means after.
Looking forward.
Nice, very nice.
Moves are taking place in the global monetary system that may affect the international role of the dollar in the future. Most major economies already have or are in the process of developing instant 24/7 payments. Our own FedNow service will be coming online in 2023. And in light of the tremendous growth in crypto assets and stablecoins, we are examining whether a US central bank digital currency would improve upon what is an already safe and efficient domestic payment system. As our white paper on this topic notes, a US CBDC will also potentially help maintain the dollar's international standing.
White paper.
There you go. Guys, real quick, this is already done. They're not thinking about it. It's done.
Damn, that's so funny to hear him drop
It's
white
done.
paper.
And most people are like, well, that's not a big deal. You know, banks are already kind of digitized. Everything's already kind of tracked. Here's why it's a big deal. They're going to gamify the system. When you can have the Federal Reserve, a privatized company that can immediately just say, hey, here's $10,000 that just shows up in your Fed wallet or whatever you want to call it, and you have to spend it within 2 weeks or it goes away, that's a dopamine hit, right? That's a dopamine hit, and you have that ability to spend that money only if it's on specific things. So the control, what you spend the money on, how you do it, when you do it, that is what this is bringing in and ushering in. So it's a big deal. The fact that he openly said that it's coming in 2023, and this is how we're going to be doing it, is powerful, and a lot of people are still missing that. So it's a very important time to just be prepared, just like all the other stuff we talked about in the macro analysis before. This is like, shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, it's a little crazy to hear it just being blatantly said like this, but it shouldn't be a surprise. This is something that I think you even talked about a couple of times. Central bank digital currency is coming, you know, and what that's going to mean, and why they're going to have to do it, because when things break, they're going to have to come in and save the day. who do you think is going to be open to CBDC? You think the American people who are thriving, or the American people who are struggling to pay bills, make ends meet, and are getting crushed by inflation?
Mm-hmm.
Which group of people do you think are going to be more malleable and open to free money injected via a service like this? So that happened over, I think it was Saturday or Friday this came out, something like that. So pretty big deal. And also now we know how to do audio and Chrome tabs. Cool.
Sick.
Yep.
I missed what you clicked there, but I'm sure you could walk me through it.
Yeah, it's simple.
Nice.
So yeah, pretty big stuff.
Great. Yeah, very crazy.
Very, very crazy, man.
I think that was the end of my few tabs that I had open. Just our hex price and some gas charts. Again, yeah, pretty cool to see. We can see all the way back to where hex launched right here. December 2, 2019, when gas was fucking below 20 on average.
$2
forever.
$3.
And price of ETH back here was like, I think it was back when it was like $80, $100, somewhere in there.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
It's pretty cheap now, though.
Yep, pretty cheap right now. Yeah, had a dump since we chatted, like we were saying last week. We were watching it bounce around the potential liquidation mark for MicroStrategy. It was getting close to that, and since then, yeah, it blew by the old all-time high, down below 18. So currently bouncing, but I don't think I'm super optimistic yet.
I'm not optimistic.
Yeah,
There's definitely more pain coming.
I think we're seeing a bounce. I think we're going to be pain and chop and pain and chop for a while.
Yep.
You ready for this? Should we do it?
Yeah, man, let's hop into it. Let's talk about some meal timing.
All right, let's do it. I won't spend too much time on some of these weird slides. This was actually a presentation I made back during my graduate program for a nutrition class. So one of the places I wanted to look at, because I don't remember exactly what the environment was back then. This would have been in 2016 or 2017. So I don't remember if it was at the forefront of the like fitness industry being like, hey, eat. It might have been, actually. It might have come back. I think way back in the day, it was like, hey, eat as many meals as possible. That's a good thing, right? Keep fire going was like one of the big myths that was around, right? If you are eating more meals, you're keeping your metabolism stoked, and we need to stoke the fire so your metabolism doesn't slow down. And this was like one of the big, I think, narratives that was pushed around metabolism and eating, and probably the original one. So I think that one was going around, as well as you and I were talking about leucine and amino acid content of the proteins as it pertains to muscle protein synthesis, so ultimately muscle building. And probably this one's been around as long as I can remember, is that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, et cetera, right? So in order to be healthy, or even to have good outcomes in terms of weight, a lot of people were preaching that you should be eating breakfast for tons of reasons. So here we're going to talk about, I think, 3 of those main areas. Weight loss. So one of the big ways that meal frequency or timing could impact you is in your weight loss or body composition goals, right? Another generic goal for people might be to try to increase muscle mass. And then another generic goal might be to try to manage health or disease. So really this is where I tried to break down the categories into. I think you could go many more than this, but this encompasses, I think, a huge number of the population. First thing, when people hear meal frequency, I think there's a whole bunch of things that come to mind. So when I say meal frequency, I'm going to refer to the number of meals that day, right? So meal frequency could be 1, it could be 5, it could be 10, who knows? Meal timing refers to like the actual time on the clock, i.e. breakfast, lunch, dinner, morning, afternoon, evening, right? Not necessarily providing the context of other states. So like this class in particular really focused on differentiating meal timing from nutrient timing. So a lot of the nutrient timing research, and I'll speak to that as well towards the end, refers to having certain nutrients in and around exercise or in and around lifting. So something like pre or post workout would be more of the nutrient timing research or field. Okay, so yeah, here's my big, here's like the big myth, I guess, around the group of people who are trying to lose weight or improve their body composition, is that you should eat small and frequent meals throughout the day. This is the best way or the better way to go about it. And it's just not necessarily true. So this idea, or like I think a very prevalent idea for most people, is that more meals are better than low. This will have a greater outcome, but this lacks a ton of evidence. The main proposition that this, I guess, portion or like corner of the community makes is that the thermic effect of food will keep your metabolism or your cellular processes going to maintain, I don't know, the speed at which they go or the total at which they go. I don't quite get the meat of their argument, but that's where they lay their claims. So this is one of the big meta-analyses, basically where we're combining 15 really good studies looking at meal frequency, right? So just number per day on weight loss and body composition. Looked at lots of populations, very strict about whether we include or whether they included people or excluded them. So certain health conditions might have excluded them from this study. So 15 of them here. We'll go through some of the very simple charts. So this is looking at the change in body mass. So how much they lost if they ate once to twice per day. They lost about, I think this is in kilos, or maybe it's in pounds, 4 to 5 kilos or pounds. It's very similar across all groups. This is a pretty cool way to plot this data in a different way. Now we get a top-down view of all 15 studies. If they lie to the left of this dashed line, it favors lower frequency. If they fall to the right, it favors higher frequency.
Jeez.
That's what that means. So your pick of the litter here, right? You could go look at each and every one of like the intricate details from all 15 studies, and you could see, hey, this is quite similar to this method. And look, well, if you look at this one, it favors higher frequency. If you look at this one, it favors lower frequency. The average of this is somewhere in the middle. This now was looking at specifically change in fat mass. So how much fat mass was lost. And there was like a noticeable difference here in higher frequency. So if you ate 5 times or more per day, it looks like their change in fat mass, you might have had an advantage at losing fat in particular. We'll talk about why that may or not be the case. Specifically, I'll just point you to this figure here. So these bars on the outside, this is the standard deviation. The larger these are, it basically indicates the larger the spread of the data. So we had one participant in this study who lost 10 pounds in favor of in a lower frequency, and then we also had a huge outlier on the other side. That's what the outlier affects the standard deviation. So an outlier could actually have been somewhere over here.
Yeah.
Right.
Seems
So
like
again,
outliers are almost even on all of them as well.
So again, when we're looking at this and it's like, oh, it kind of looks like high frequency is favored. Well, this is another way of looking at this data that might be like a little bit clearer, right? A little bit more granular, where you can see a lot more of the information versus 3 data points, right? Now we have 1, 2, we've got 15 times 3, we've got like 45 data points here. So just a little more of a more detailed view on what was happening. This is looking at changes in fat-free mass. I don't know if this was losing or gaining. If they were on an actual like exercise program, probably losing. I think everyone was losing weight. So you lose both compartments. You'll lose both body fat and fat-free mass. So where did that go? So fat-free mass lost, again, kind of looks like we're in favor of a higher frequency, right? Again, we'll look at, is this fat-free mass? No, this one. This is looking at all the studies now, change in fat-free mass. Pretty darn similar. Higher frequency over here, or favoring higher frequency if your average, their average is represented by this big black dot, falls on the right, favoring lower frequency if it falls over here. Again, out of like the strictest 15 studies that they condensed this down to, this is a coin toss to me. And finally, this was looking at body fat percentage. So kind of a function of the decrease of both of those compartments, the comparison of the proportions of fat mass to fat-free mass that make up your entire body weight. So again, I kind of like to kind of zoom to here. This is a good initial one to look at, but this one really tells the story a little bit better. Again, another coin toss. And when you go into some of the statistical data and analysis, you can actually see that the sensitivity analysis showed that a single study had a huge effect on some of these findings. So like when we look at this chart in particular, or when we run the data on this chart where it looks like, hey, it looks like these guys lost way more fat. Well, it changes that statistical finding from P of 0.04 when we include this all the way to P 0.4. So a huge difference in like statistical findings just because of one study, right? So to me, that it's not to throw away this study, it's just to highlight that we can find beneficial outcomes using all of the frequencies, and pretty darn similar. The biggest takeaway I have from this: prioritize energy balance. It doesn't matter if it's 1 meal or 5 meals. The big driver here is going to be total energy intake. This is one of the fundamentals that we have been preaching since like episode 1 or 2. An exciting thing about this is, hey, whichever frequency promotes adherence for you the best is the best. There might be some applications for certain individuals to customize macronutrient portions. So that's protein, carbs, and fats. If you're in a context where higher protein might do you better, i.e. resistance training. If you're an athlete, something like that. If you're an endurance athlete, maybe carbohydrates might have to change. Again, the biggest driver, total energy. So I think this is probably the big, when it comes to what most people might hear or believe when it comes to meal timing, might be the biggest, most encompassing, is that myth. How many times you should eat. That I heard, I don't know, probably in high school, I bet you I heard that. More meals or lots of small meals. Did you ever hear it?
Lose weight.
Right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Lots of small meals to keep the fire burning was in. It's just not necessarily the case.
You guys know what that is? So whenever you guys hear of really ridiculous dieting strategies that don't make sense per the studies and don't make sense from a mechanics or a game theory standpoint, it's like a rug pull. It's like a shitty rug pull project in crypto. It's going to get you wrecked. Yeah. When you're putting all of your emphasis and brain power and focus on things like meal timing or supplement use, etc., things that either don't matter at all or such a small percentage of your total progress that don't matter at all, once again, if the other stuff isn't focused on, you're going to get wrecked with the rug pull. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this is an exciting answer, even though it's a boring answer, right? Yeah. The exciting answer is you don't have to min-max and worry about all these little tiny things going on, like meal timing. You can just focus on the one thing that matters the most and build your strategy and your setup around that. And you're not going to get rug pulled. You're not going to get wrecked. You'll be good.
Yes, sir.
I'm literally going to start saying that from now on. If it's anything like this, I'm just saying this is a rug pull. You're going to get wrecked. Just like everybody else continues to get wrecked. Continues to do the same thing.
Yeah. And you can combine. Like you don't have to commit to 2 meals per day for the rest of your life. You could do 2 meals one day. You could do seven meals the next. You could do 1 meal the next. You could do 0 meals the next day. Like,
I'll say this. That's why it's even more important to go back to our earlier episodes on data analytics and tracking the data, because that lets you be less freaked out when lifestyle changes happen, because they're inevitable. They will happen where work life changes, relationship status changes, family life changes, and your food preferences along with that change, right? How often you go out to eat, what time of the day you eat, what kind of foods you prefer to eat. And the point is when you have data to support that things are just fine, you're going to feel better about manipulating or changing what you need to do to still be successful and not freak out about it, because that really gets people. So yeah, I feel like it always just comes back down to sustainability and getting comfortable with the numbers, just like we do with anything else that we take great pride in, having responsibility over, like our income or, anything that has to do with numbers. But yeah, adherence is best. The most unsexy answer you're going to see 24/7 on this channel.
Yep. Okay.
Surprised we haven't got any comments about this. I feel like somebody would have been said something.
Yeah.
Like,
Breakfast maximalist. Always eat breakfast. Most important meal of the day.
Get the metabolism charged with 10 meals a day.
Yeah. Start the fire. So you can keep it started all day by always eating or eating more small meals to keep the fire going. I don't know. If a lot of meals works for you, awesome. It's definitely not more optimal than lots of other strategies out there.
What's so important too about the data that kind of ties into meal timing? I'll have so many people that have a difficult time building a relationship with the data and or accepting their life changing to where, for example, if I have somebody I'm working with and because their lifestyle is changing, or maybe they have a few kids and they're taking them to basketball games late at night for some reason, and they have to eat late at night, and that makes the scale go up temporarily, right? As you know this, it's going to give them a higher weigh-in if they pound a bunch of food later at night, right?
Yep.
No different than weighing in earlier in the morning. So the point is, though, is that almost impacts people's ability to go with the flow with their lifestyle changes, and they fight against it, which makes them even less consistent or adherent because they're forcing themselves to do something that will pander to the scale doing something, which that's a terrible idea. So I see this commonly all the time. It really just boils down to educating yourself and understanding how the scale moves as a tool, as one of the tools, as well as measurements or any of the other things, because until you understand that, all this stuff's just going to confuse you and frustrate you, because that's kind of like the baseline of it all. So I do see people really fighting a natural shift, I'll word it like this, fighting a natural shift in their meal preferences, shifting, whether it be the time of the day they eat, how large of a meal they're eating at a specific time of the day, all that stuff. So it is interesting how this kind of, like, not this exact topic, but how this can relate to something like that. Because I see that pattern all the time where people be like, oh, I can't eat after 7 o'clock at night because I don't want the scale to go up. What? Yep. That's it. That's like a big red flag there. Yeah. If you ever hear somebody like trying to play Russian roulette with the scale to make it do things, that's how you know they don't know what's going on. They have no clue. And there's definitely some learning that's needed as it pertains to that tool, right? Because they just don't understand. And it's, once again, if you don't understand something, you have a really difficult time building a relationship with it. It's gonna be very frustrating. Just like trying to build a relationship with a person. If you don't understand them, how are you really going to build a good relationship with them? You just can't. So we got to understand this stuff a bit better. And hopefully this one's just very direct and another reminder that adherence is the top of the top. You can pick the most ineffective dieting strategy as it pertains to number of meals per day, which I think would probably be one meal a day, probably one of the most ineffective if you had to rank it. Or would you disagree? That's more
I don't know.
That's more of a question too. I feel like because the optimal is what, like 3 to 4, I think.
In terms for, I would say for muscle building, I would say, you probably want more than one, especially on a training day. Yeah. And the day following a training day, right? So
let's assume the person's trying to maintain their best body composition and improve it as best as possible, regardless of being a bodybuilder or not.
Then I would probably say yes to one being the least effective, right? Even so, this is still assuming total energy balance is the same and macronutrient distribution is the same. So yes, then yes.
Assuming all else is equal, and like even then, guys, it's not going to matter much. Like, that's
even
the
then,
point. Like if you could be more consistent on 1 meal a day for 5 years, that's going to trump you trying to be perfect with 4 meals a day for like a week or 2, or even 6 months. The person who can be consistent will outlast you. Time in the market, man. That's all nutrition is time in the market. Learn that. It's like compound interest.
The only group of individuals that I would say it might have, and I'm even going to say might have a significant impact on are professional bodybuilders when you need to maximize like actual muscle gained or muscle maintained as you're losing weight. Athletes who are training multiple times per day and then performing. And even then it's might. So you could set up a 1 to 2 meal regimen where it's probably as good as a 2 to 3, right? It's almost just like safeguarding your outcomes at that time to do the 3 or 4 meal regimen.
There's a comment here about The Rock.
Yeah.
You
The
should
Rock.
Yeah.
What do we got here? You must surf. You must surf. The Rock says cardio first, then eat. Yeah, so I would say this is a pretty hot topic right now in maybe like the deeper fitness world. Is fasted cardio is probably what he's
We should do that
referencing,
one next. That's one we need to crush.
right?
Fast. Yeah.
It is a pretty short crush, but yeah, I don't have I don't have any of the articles or like data in front of me. I can pull data that supports this idea, but it would be excluding data that then negates this idea. So it is true if you do not eat. So if you wake up in a fasted state, usually in physiology, we say like 12 hours, no energy containing foods would be fasted, at least, and no other substances. If you then go and do cardio, you will use more fat for fuel than if you had eaten. That is conclusive. So this little data point is what can be pulled, extracted as true because it is true, and then used to push an idea that now it must lead to better outcomes for fat loss for bodybuilder competitors, especially. That's where it's, I think, probably the most prevalent. But what they fail to tell you is that if you measure the substrate utilization for the rest of the day, is that your body will naturally shift to using more carbs now and storing fat. So it will ultimately end up being approximately the same. I think just like some of these scatter plots, or this isn't a scatter plot, what the heck is this called? Just like these plots, you would be able to find some studies that would favor fasting, and then you would find some studies that would favor non-fasting, and some right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to find very, very similar outcomes. That's the big takeaway, though, is during the training, yes, since you don't have that readily available meal that was consumed within the last however long, 2 to 4 to 6 hours, you will go to stored energy via body fat or stored triglycerides. But you will then store more fat throughout the day as compared to somebody who had eaten. So it ends up being net neutral overall. And that's it. It's just looking at that one data point does support the idea that fasted cardio, well, it's true, fasted cardio relies on fat as the substrate more than non-fasted.
Very short crush.
Right? It's just zooming in on one data point as opposed to like if that individual is going to have a 24-hour day. So he follows up, you must surf, you must surf. How about no carb days then? Confusing with carb days. How about no carb days? Then confusing with carb days. How about no carb day? If you don't want to eat carbs, you don't have to eat carbs. Adding carbs definitely helps, especially for performance, especially long-term events, like endurance events.
Brother,
Oh,
how about this? Listen, I think what I would really focus on looking at is energy balance. The video we did on energy balance. Exercise did a great comparison on what that looks like, what it entails, and how to understand what's really going on. Because once you watch that video, these kinds of questions that you have will be answered, because it's not about how many carbs you have, it's total energy balance. There's optimal ways to maybe ingest and intake that energy, right? But this is kind of showing like there's no such thing as confusing anything, right? So I would definitely recommend going back to if you look in the Discourse Syndicate video history and search up MOF, like our title here, go back to some of our first episodes and you'll see a few on energy balance and charting and stuff like that. I think that'd be the best spot for you to start, and that will get you, literally, it will blow your mind, number one, and number two, you'll have a lot of these questions answered. I mean that 100%. It'll really do you some good.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this confusion idea doesn't quite
I
pan
kind of
out.
wish it was true sometimes. I want to confuse my muscles to do some shit. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I did a curl backwards, so I confused my muscle. That would just really work out my tricep, I guess. But you get the point, right? I did some weird shit with the dumbbell and really confused the shit out of my bicep and got some insane growth. Like, no, it's not the case. You know, a lot of this stuff is pretty boring. But what is exciting is, in my opinion, is the data. That's why I thought people in the crypto space would really like hearing what we have to say, because there's a lot of data and trends and stuff to follow on this stuff. Dude, you know what I actually thought of yesterday? I was thinking in my head, like, it reminded me looking at those charts, because some of those plots actually kind of look like candles here and there. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I should use RG3's chart and find somebody that can help me turn the actual charting of it into a candlestick chart. I think it could work using weekly candles.
Yeah.
How cool would that be?
It would be cool.
That'd be really effing cool, I think. Like, to actually show, because I'm thinking like, it wouldn't really work on the daily, obviously, because there's only one data point, but for the weekly, it could work really well, you know?
Yep.
And it could show an exact trend. So I kind of want to do that for RG3's chart, is show people where the reverse diet was, where the weight loss phases were, where there is travel, where there is some consolidation period, or whatever. We can be, clever with the wording, of course, but the point is, I think it'd be really, really freaking cool. I don't think there's a way to do that in Google Sheets. If there's anybody in the Hex community that knows how to make candlestick charts in a Google Sheet, let me know. I think you should make a post on Twitter about that. Like, I need help doing this. That'd be cool, man. I mean, my clients wouldn't really appreciate it, obviously. Like a 50-year-old woman would be like, what the hell is this shit? Like, I don't want to see this. But I think that'd be really cool almost. I wonder if I guess my point of this is, I wonder if a candlestick chart emphasizing weight loss patterns, of the stuff I talk about with a line chart, could be potentially more helpful visually for somebody. Because I see apps like Happy Scale. I don't know if you've heard of Happy Scale. It's an app that basically shows you the averages and the trends in a really pretty graph style, but it's not candlesticks. I was just wondering if that could be like, it's kind of like gimmicky, but I think it could still work actually really well based on my knowledge of how this stuff works. I think it actually could work really well and be kind of like that gimmicky thing that gets people really excited about stuff. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if it could work, for sure.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Because I think, like, I don't know why it just dawned on me. I'm like, I never thought of it because of the dailies. I'm like, this would never work with the daily weigh-ins, but the weekly candles would be perfect. Just enough to show the trend, just enough to show the high and the low of the week. And of course, we'd still have like a line chart in the daily, but I think the candlestick chart could be in addition to that. It'd be pretty cool. Well, wow, we got some more comments here. Metabolic confusion. Your metabolism, my friend, knows exactly what it's doing all the time. It is never confused. It is merely reacting to the inputs you're giving it.
Yeah.
So if you're gaining weight, it's because of the inputs you're giving it. If you're losing weight, it's because of the inputs you're giving it. Yeah. And if you're at homeostasis and you're at flatline, you're at you're at maintenance and you're not gaining weight, you're not losing weight, it's because you've given it enough time to adapt to your inputs, which have been pretty stable.
Yeah, metabolic confusion. If you are a normal person, I guess there might be one I don't know if this is
shit, I want to hear this.
Where this term is coming from, but like if you go into ketosis, like actual ketosis, there is like a measurable internal change in terms of like substrate utilization. metabolically, right? So somebody who is in ketosis will have different a different substrate utilization composition than somebody who is not in ketosis. Now, it's fairly hard to get into ketosis. Like you have to be consuming, I think it's less, it depends on your body weight and size, but it's like less than 15 grams of carbs per day for, it depends on the person again, but until you get your ketone, like your actual like blood ketone levels to a certain point. So you can get there. And then there is like a measurable shift in the composition and like the way it might utilize those subs, or the amount, I'll say, the proportion of substrates utilized, right? But like the way it metabolizes that item doesn't really change.
I was
But
gonna
so
say, isn't that like more of like a guaranteed response if you put
yeah,
yourself in ketosis versus it
yeah.
being confused? It's still doing
So
what it's doing.
exactly. So and you can move in and out of ketosis, and as you do so, you do see, again, it's not confusing it. It's just in like it's just a slightly different state, right? So I'm not sure if like that's where this term comes from. So you can get into a state of ketosis where some of the metrics are different. I would
I
say,
think confusion just comes from shitty sales tactics from
yeah,
shitty ass products for
definitely,
the
right?
industry.
Like if you go from like cycling carbs or going from 0 carb days to having carbs again, like your body will still utilize those carbs. It's not going to forget how to break it into glucose and use it. It will always take a carbohydrate, break it down to glucose, run it through glycolysis to get some energy. And that is its most efficient and go-to form that it likes to use. So if it is there, it will use it. If it's not there, obviously it goes to different ends for that to happen, i.e. ketones, if the environment is that severe for a long enough period of time. Most people who are on like ketogenic diets probably don't get into actual ketosis, which I think what the proponents of the ketogenic diet say is where the benefits are from. Um, and the only benefits we've actually seen to a environment that is in a state of ketosis is in certain forms of cancer and seizure disorders. Then, so like some of those actual diseases are carb obligate. What that means is the fuel that they use must be a carb. So if you limit um, blood glucose available, then yes, you can actually see some outcomes there. But it's the term
Just picture
confusion.
a giant question mark inside my body going on. Just a giant like flashing question mark like, dude, we are confused.
Yeah, what do we do with this sugar? Send it on. We don't want it.
Well, I
No.
guess that could be maybe one argument for it. People, and this is like not to poke fun or anything, but as your body becomes, insulin sensitive, or what's the terminology I'm looking for here? We become insensitive,
Yeah,
right? That
desensitized.
desensitized to those things, and you become closer to becoming diabetic. That could be almost like a little bit of confusing going on because your body is literally not able to do what it's supposed to do slowly.
Yeah.
Once again, I mean, I would say that's probably the closest usage that I could think of to that term. As somebody becomes diabetic, your body is literally becoming confused because it can no longer,
The
yeah,
the actual negative feedback loop doesn't work the same anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Or
it's
that's
like I
what
don't think
can
it's
happen.
supposed to. It's not supposed to do that. You know what I mean? So I have to imagine that's probably the only case I could think of where it could be in a way kind of confused and it's almost just like slowly dying. It's losing its ability to react in a certain way.
Yeah.
But once again, to be fair, it happens the same way every time with people. So is that really being confused? Which typically you would think that there'd be a different outcome every time because if it's confused, it's going to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same thing every time. So. DB Cooper lifts in the mornings on an empty stomach. Hey, if that's what you prefer, go for it, brother. Honestly, that's the best part. It's not really going to, I will say, aid or hurt in any way, shape, or form Well, actually, that's a whole other conversation is what's optimal for
Mhm.
resistance training as it pertains to nutrient intake before a workout. Once
Yeah.
again, we're really talking about min-maxing here, guys. This is like for the top 1 of the 1% of bodybuilders that really care about this stuff. Most people shouldn't care about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, yes.
Just
Well,
like
The Rock being natural. The Rock has absolutely no effing clue what's going on, and you can tell by just listening to the way he speaks about things and what he recommends other people to do.
yeah.
That's how you know. And no offense to the guy, I love the movies he's in. It's just when people have an influence like he does over the space, and you have that many followers. Honestly, it is your responsibility to not say stupid shit. It is. Just like Richard says, if you're going to have an audience of 1 billion or 1 million people for the crypto Twitter, don't freaking get your followers wrecked. It's your responsibility. You know what I mean? Like, don't be an idiot. So I take it very seriously when I see celebrities or whoever, just because they are able to put in a bunch of work in the gym and take a bunch of gear, get to a certain size, and then people actually look to that person for help.
Yeah.
Be honest and just say you don't know what the hell you're doing, because steroids are a whole different animal, and you're not even injecting stuff your body makes. You're injecting stuff that's 1 million times better, and you took a shortcut, and that's okay. That's an okay choice to make, but don't spread shitty ass misinformation.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I like the guy.
Yeah. He's got a great work ethic by the looks of it, and he's had great results.
And I'm sure his stack is phenomenal.
Yeah. He's got a lot of support around him.
That's one way to word it. But
Right.
yeah, obviously
Yeah,
he works
great.
his ass off to get size. He doesn't just magically appear when you take steroids. But
Yeah.
I think the world would be better off for sure. And this is maybe a whole other episode. If they really knew just how easy it was to put on size while taking steroids. Seriously, like pop everybody's bubble. It is incredibly easy to look a certain way when you're on steroids, assuming two people know the same things. And if two people are putting in the same amount of work, just how different one person will work versus the other. Like there is such a profound difference. It's not like you're getting a 10% edge or a 20% edge. We're talking like one person could literally screw up immensely on so many things and be just fine and put on tons of size, and the other person could just not see any progress at all if they're natty.
Yeah.
I feel like that is one topic that guys particularly as well could really benefit from.
It just like steroid talk.
I wouldn't even say just steroid talk, but just really understanding how much easier and simpler this space is to be successful in or look a certain way when steroids are in the mix versus someone who's natural. Like guys have no real understanding or perception on just how much of a superhuman you are when you take things, depending on the combination of such. Like just how immensely easy it is to just go in the gym and do whatever and put on some insane size and do it in such a short period of time and totally eclipse what somebody could do natty in maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Which, once again, not for or against, I'm just saying in general, like people are very, very wildly off in that.
Yeah. And maybe, understanding that when you are looking to places or looking to information sources, a lot of the very prevalent ones are like more times than not utilizing things like that. It's extremely prevalent in like the health and fitness world.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Some of the craziest studies that made me like, I'd never really considered it at the, like I was a college athlete, we got tested and shit. It wasn't even a thought on my mind. I knew like they were out there and like you probably go get them, but also like I'm not that interested. Like I do need to actually get bigger and stronger to compete with some of these guys. I was pretty small, so lifting and actually joining like a kinesiology program was one of the ways that I tried to fight that. But I never was like, you know what? If this could actually, I didn't like, just like you're saying, I didn't really think the difference could be, I guess, monumental. But when I saw, so in my grad degree, we looked at some of like the bedridden studies.
Yeah.
So people who were literally immobilized for a year. And I can't remember any of the numbers, so I don't even want to try to misquote them, but they were crazy. And like the fat-free mass to body fat, like the composition that steroids allowed bedridden or immobilized people to maintain. It
Yeah.
was it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I was like,
'Cause
holy shit. Maybe now I'll go start talking to some of those bros in the change room.
yeah, because I think the big deal is people don't understand how much of a shortcut it is. It just that needs to be clear. That needs to be cleared up, rather.
Mhm.
People don't understand how much of a free pass it really is. And not to mention the potential side effects and health negative, externalities that can come along with it. But the
Mhm.
point is that just from a sheer performance standpoint, nobody really, for the most part, has understanding of how much of an improvement you're getting. So my point is, why is this relevant? Why does this matter? Because you need to take everything you see and understand the person and who you're getting feedback and help from. If somebody is giving feedback and help and advice who is only experienced taking steroids and doesn't have a history of potentially being natural and having this under control without steroids, and they've only experienced it with, well, there's better be a lot of evidence that this person knows what they're talking about 100%, because anybody and their mother could hop on these things and look and feel a certain way for an extended period of time. No problem. That is how easy it is. Anybody can do it quite literally easily. What happens though is you notice a lot of these people, as soon as they fall off a cycle, as soon as they fall off anything they're doing, they can't look the part. That's how you know.
Mhm.
When somebody hops off of things that have guaranteed their success and they can still be successful, that's how I know they don't know what they're doing. So
Yeah.
we look typically to people, whether it be, and I'm not picking on The Rock here, but people in industries that have sway and influence and are obviously not knowing what the hell they're doing because they're just lifting hard and taking steroids. Yeah, that's literally all there is to it. Shove a bunch of volume in there, make sure the weight's decently high, and watch things grow, watch things happen. And they're also typically on something or will go on something to drop body fat because their diet's terrible. And by terrible, I mean they don't know how to manipulate these things naturally to create it on their own. So they rely on injected substances. And once again, I'm not hating on people that take steroids. It's more about people who are trying to influence the industry who are on
Mhm.
said steroids. That's
Yeah.
where I have an issue. Not people taking them. That's your own decision. I don't really
Yeah.
give a shit. Because it's nuts, man. The amount of people I see out there who have influence because they were taking these things.
Yep.
There's a lot. So you gotta be able to pick it out. Just like with crypto, you gotta be able to pick out the bullshit. Just because someone has 1 million followers doesn't mean they know anything. And Richard has proven this to you over and over and over again. Right? So you guys are following these people who have tons of followers who are just wrecking you with terrible advice. They're having you buy rug pulls all the time. I mean, if we could probably do an episode just on The Rock information and tweets and suggestions.
Oh yeah. Oh,
we
yeah.
we should do that. An episode solely going over the history of recommendations of The Rock and things he has said. Just to show you guys how many people are getting wrecked by following these people. I hate to say, this is the bit boy. He is the bit boy.
Yeah.
There's no difference. And not that bit boy is a bad person, I guess I'll say per se. Well, I guess we'll see. History will tell us that. But the point is like, obviously, The Rock isn't maliciously trying to go out and wreck people, but he knows that he doesn't know what he's doing, and he knows that he's probably not helping people out.
Yeah.
Deep down.
Yeah, that would actually be a good little, like, we could do like a 10 or 15 segment every once in a while, like starting with The Rock. Then the next one could be, I don't know who else is like a really fucking popular guy that gives advice on fitness. Mark Wahlberg, probably.
I just feel like The Rock's a good one because he's so dramatically out of place because he's such an outlier with his weight, his height, how much muscle he has, the way he eats, the things he does. Because
probably even Arnie. Like we could look for some, like maybe Arnie probably has some good takes.
I feel like Arnold though, like, isn't as like prevalent in the scene, like giving out terrible advice. He was more like workout training and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like the damage some of the newer influencers are doing now is wildly misunderstood. You know, because people typically look to, like, I feel like it's not as much bodybuilders, especially like Olympia bodybuilders, you know, because that's such like a out of touch situation versus like a movie actor. Oh, I want to look like him, or look what this movie actor did for his diet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially those that are more kind of like in communication with their audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to like, you know, make fun of BitBoy, but BitBoy has certainly promoted projects that have been absolutely insanely shitty rug pulls, knowingly. You know, so it's like that is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, Richard is never doing that. We have to hold. Here's the point. Let me summarize it with this, okay? if we are going to be so strict on holding all of these people to high standards in the crypto space, like Bitboy, like all these people, and we follow Richard Hart because he doesn't do that, there's no room. There's no room in the crypto industry for bullshit. I am the same way with the overall health and wellness industry.
Mhm.
All of it's filled with rug pulls, you guys. All of it's filled with rug pulls. There's a few people that are Richard Harts in there. I'm one of them. There are a few people that are Richard Harts in there that are great, but 99% of it is shitty ass rug pulls, and people are getting wrecked everywhere. So
Yep,
think
trying
about it.
to
That's why we have to be strict.
trying to sell you referral links or their fucking ab pill or their secret or their
Dude, it's and honestly, it's just the you know the dissemination of bad information. Like The Rock doesn't make any money from talking about nutrition. You
Yeah.
know, it's not like
Yeah.
he's selling a product or anything like that. He's got an energy drink right now, but whatever. Like that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But you know, in terms of that, it's like he's getting paid to like shill something. He's just giving shitty advice, and people are getting their game theory mechanics and product from people that are rug pulling you. Think about it. Even though they don't make money on it, who cares? It's still rug pull. You're still going to get wrecked.
Yeah.
Or else, once again, the obesity rate would not be climbing. It's like Luna when you're like, oh, we hit the bottom. It's 0.001.
Yeah.
No, dude, we're still rapidly going further down.
No, yeah.
That's the obesity rate. Oh, it can't get higher. No, we're literally going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
There's
you can still go another 90% lower actually.
There's an article from my local news station in New York, and it was about a person who was very scared and like upset by her healthcare premium going up 25% this year. Remember we talked about that in one of the episodes about healthcare premiums going up?
Yep.
People are finally getting the percent increases, and it's about 20 to 25%, dude. And that's this year, guys. You think it's going to stop? And the audacity of Americans. This is how off and out of touch Americans are right now. I love America. I love my country. But we have a serious fucking problem. When you have everybody saying we need universal healthcare, we need free healthcare, this is an outrage. They're just, you know, making all these problems. It's like, guys, no, we're the most unhealthy nation in the world, and we are becoming more and more healthy every year. Who's footing that bill? We didn't have a 60% obesity rate 20 years ago. What do you think that's going to do to costs? Who's going to foot that bill?
Yep.
Who's paying for that? Like at some point we have to look at ourselves and be responsible. So, you know, these are the problems that are continuing to happen as long as you got people like The Rock or whoever that frick is out there talking about this nonsense. You know, it's like taking advice from Richard Hart on crypto or taking advice from a bum on the street for which cryptocurrency to invest in. The health and wellness industry is listening to the bum on the street right now on how to get shredded and be healthy. It blows my mind, dude. And I know some of this will probably hurt people's feelings, but you know, what's worse, me hurting your feelings and you not over, or you staying alive and not having to pay 30% over on your, you know, health insurance.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's going to hit 30 to 40% next year. And it's just like everything we talked about, like the Fed Now service coming in, the CBDC. Why do you think that's going to come in? Think about this. Hey, exercise. You were a good boy this month. You have $10,000 in your bank, but you have to use it on these kinds of foods. And only these retailers accept the Fed currency because these other companies didn't update their stuff and they can't accept it. So you can't use like a dollar bill. You can't use your credit card. You can only use a Fed coin, which is only accepted in certain areas. So they could actually control overall health in America. Remember I talked to you about that? Like, hey, an actual government overreach of calorie count. How do you think they could do that?
Yeah.
CBDC. You can't go to Burger King. Not accepted.
Yeah.
You can't go here. Not accepted.
Yeah.
To a degree, they can at least, you know? So it's scary stuff, man. Like, could we fix the problem that way? I feel like we could maybe help it a little bit. Is that the ideal way that people really want to have happen? Holy shit, guys.
Definitely
really?
not. It would definitely have, an impact, but there would be so many unintended consequences.
Plus, people would not take to that kindly, man. Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
No.
Yeah, right. But as long as we have nutritional experts getting mad at Wendy's or what was it?
Yeah, McDonald's. Yeah.
Pulling off their salads because apparently McDonald's needs to be the ones to shift the obesity crisis in America.
Yeah.
We're going to have bigger problems coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know what I also see as very likely, if not already probably happening, is like adding obesity or like some sort of obesity metric as a precluding or an excluding condition, like for health insurance, right? So if your
Oh,
if your
dude, that
most
was
recent if your most recent physical has you at a BMI of 30 or above, guess what? You're obese and your rate is higher than this person. In the exact same way that previous heart condition or previous heart
yeah.
attacks or cardiovascular events, age, sex, like they all impact it right now. Like
Well,
there is,
how are they going to do that? Because our country, like, the last time they took the rates, it was around 40%. And that was in 2019 or 2020. It's been 2 more years and it's gotten way worse. Safe bet is 50 to 60%. They can't exclude 50 to 60% because they're over a certain BMI, unless they took a very high percentile, like,
yeah,
or a very high, BMI, like super high. So maybe it's like 5%
yeah,
that they would put on the same level of heart disease, where maybe not excluded, but you're just paying insane costs. And I feel like they're doing
yeah,
that already. But like we talked about, we're getting to a point where we can't afford things. When rent and food and those things are at X of your paycheck every month, it's actually pretty effed up. There's a study, and I think I told you this once. There's a study that shows us where people riot when it comes to prices, and it's when 40% of your take home is taken up by food and rent, right around there.
yeah,
And we're getting close to that. When you work in health insurance stuff, like, dude, and think about it this way, the kids are also becoming obese too. So you have them as an issue because these family plans are becoming more difficult because now the children are exponentially going up too.
yeah.
And weirdly enough, they have more data on the children than they do the adults that I've seen on the CDC website for charts and stuff. I haven't ever talked about, childhood obesity rates on here because we're,
Yeah.
it's mostly about like just in general dieting stuff. I haven't talked about the kids much, but dude, that's still going to bring up costs. It's all going to, who's paying for this shit?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when half the world's diabetic, you think free healthcare is going to cover it better?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
other countries that have free healthcare are healthier than us.
Yeah.
They have healthier citizens. They have a situation where they can still afford, for now, because other countries are not in a great boat either. Let's be honest here. Other countries are definitely not far behind America.
True.
They are not. Surprisingly enough, I was very surprised to realize recently with a lot of different countries how high the obesity rates are, especially in some like almost third world countries. I was like, what the heck is going on? Especially in the Middle East. But yeah, so this is the free healthcare. That shit's going to go away too, unless the government just wants to keep printing money into oblivion to cover all of it. And we already see what's going on there with the Fed funds rate and all that good stuff. So
Yep.
it all goes back into the same pot, where we're going to be seeing some big changes here with the central bank digital currency and something called a bank balance, which I don't know if we've ever covered. I know Wales Only has covered it on his channel a few times. It'd be probably worthwhile us covering it here. It's pretty important stuff. Yeah, you should look into a bank balance.
Is it the inverse of a bailout?
Yep, except me and you, the people who have money in the bank, are turned into uninsured creditors. So our money can be used to pay off their debts. No questions asked. It's in the contract. And it's happened a few times in history. People have just forgotten. So think of a time where all of a sudden your banks go on holiday. Look up bank holiday, where they close for about a week and they reopen. And your $20,000, for example, is still in the bank, except now it's under a central bank digital currency. And although it's the same number, $20,000, its purchasing power is 20% less. Well, they just robbed you of 20% of your purchasing power, just like that, without you realizing it. So look at bank balance, what it entails. And it's happened a few times in history. And it's very important. It's very important. That's why a lot of people, including Richard, are advising us to get money as it makes sense, enough money out of the system that makes sense. I say that because we still need fiat currency to buy things and pay bills and stuff. But the point is you want money out of the system, out of the banking system. Obviously, a lot of us pick crypto on cold storage that's safe, not on exchanges.
Yep.
But a lot of people are buying land or gold and silver or whatever. But yeah, look into bank balance, man. This stuff's fascinating, as well as the Fed funds rate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look into it. You're like, holy shit, how is this not talked about? Yeah. Very interesting stuff, my friend.
Okay.
So yeah, look at the ones in the history of it with America specifically. Yeah. So yeah. Anywho, we covered a lot tonight.
Yeah. let me just mention these. We're 10 minutes past the hour now, so let me just mention these last two really quick. The other two basically myths or ideas that I wanted to target were a group that might be looking for the best muscle mass growth or strength gains or performance gains. So in this context, one of the big ideas back in the day, so this was back in 2016, and actually how I got introduced to Layne Norton, Ryan, was that there's an idea that one of the amino acids was more responsible than the rest for prolonging and amplifying and even initiating muscle protein synthesis. So you can think of muscle protein synthesis as when it is above zero, your body is building muscle. So it's a net number that kind of tracks muscle building or muscle creation and muscle degradation. And 24/7, your body's always building and always breaking down. The net amount is like what the actual effective rate is. If it's positive, you're net gaining muscle. So muscle protein synthesis is usually started from taking in a protein bolus. And back in the day, leucine was thought to be one of the really, really important ones. And it even looked like that in a lot of the rat studies. So for a long time, there were rat studies going on, but it turned out that it just didn't quite extrapolate over to humans. And as they were doing more and more research, I often, like, this is one of the quotes that will be etched in my memory forever from Layne Norton, is that his supervisor for his PhD, so a lot of this leucine research he did during his PhD, he had the theory, he maintained the theory that leucine was going to be responsible. And he would come back with a new kind of like distribution or rounded data every couple of weeks, and it still wasn't quite supporting what he had expected to see or his theory. He's like, well, leucine's doing this over here. It should also be doing this now as they move through his data collection. And his supervisor, a protein, like a really, really big name in protein research, I think it's Don Layman, told him, he was like, you should quit trying to make the data fit into your hypothesis. And that was really, really powerful for me back in the day, is that like a lot of people will just think that the data or the outcomes need to fit the hypothesis because like they might have made it based off of grounded information or like real accurate information. But one of the biggest traps you can fall into is trying to make the data fit your hypothesis, where it's like, hey, this might not be the case, even though like we saw it here and here to support like this experimental study. It looks like it might just not be the case. So the big outcome now and the consensus I would say now is that while leucine is like a fairly important and notable amino acid, it's not a king or a like big difference maker. So there, even back in the day when they were setting up some of the human studies, bodybuilders or people who were brought into these studies were optimizing how much leucine specifically they were getting in. And what turns out to be the big predictor is just a large bolus or a large amount of high quality protein. When I say high quality, it just means a full amino acid profile. So usually animal protein sources, or actually I'll say always animal protein sources will have a full profile, and oftentimes non-animal protein sources will not have a full profile. So if you're getting a quote unquote lower quality protein, you might need a larger bolus, somewhere maybe 30 to 40 grams. If you're getting high quality protein with a full amino acid profile, it might just be 20 to 25. It might get you your best bang for your buck where you optimize or peak out your muscle protein synthesis. The big takeaway here, though, is that muscle protein synthesis increases and then it decreases, right? It does not stay elevated forever following a meal. It will decrease again. So if you wanted to optimize your muscle building or your strength gains or potentially your performance, it would probably make the most sense to eat once your muscle protein synthesis bottomed out. That way you could stay in a net positive muscle building environment or a anabolic environment more often than being in a catabolic environment. So anabolic being your building. Most people know that word from steroids, anabolic steroids. Catabolism is the inverse mechanism to that, where it is breaking down, right? So there will be times, no matter what you do, where you will be catabolic, right? But you can try to mitigate that by elevating muscle protein synthesis as often as possible. So that becomes It kind of changes from person to person and then how big a meal you have, but your muscle protein synthesis can be elevated for like 6 hours. So if you wanted to use this to inform how often you eat, specifically for like the less than 1% change you might see to address this muscle protein synthesis, I would say like every 3 to 6 hours would probably target that pretty accurately. But again, you will it's not going to like make or break your outcomes if you are part of the average or part of the general population. So there might actually be, I would say, some reason there for upping your frequency, specifically like a bolus of protein every however long, depending on you. The last one, real quick here, Ryan, was talking about the health and disease population, I guess, and some of the most, I would say, like prevalent ideas is that, especially in diabetes or obesity, it might be beneficial to have breakfast for, I think the reason that this camp always touted was that it would help with blood glucose if you had a regular
Okay.
regimen. Now, that is not what was confirmed, but it was confirmed that it might actually help with habits. So there was a huge study. It looked at 700 children who either incorporated breakfast or they didn't. And the ultimate takeaway was that if they consumed more than 3 meals per day, or 3 or more meals per day, and breakfast, so mandatory breakfast, they were less likely to be overweight or obese. Now that is because of the potential habits that were formed. That was not because of the energy balance, right? So a takeaway here, if you are raising children, there might be a benefit in terms of habits to having a regular breakfast. But the outcomes won't be different if the energy balance is the same. So structured meals might be good for children's habits.
And that's almost like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
that may actually change too.
So my big takeaways, as I think, yeah, you probably knew 5 minutes into this episode, was prioritize energy balance for your goals and your needs, and choose whatever frequency you want that promotes your adherence the best. Specifically for muscle protein synthesis, meals every 3 hours. So I'm actually going to friggin' delete leucine right here and literally just say high quality protein can optimize muscle protein synthesis. And then structuring meals might help in children. So that could lead to better habits down the road. We didn't really, we're a little bit over time now, but maybe next time I'll spend a little bit of time on nutrient timing, or especially the pre-workout, post-workout meals. Because that's one that kind of gets lumped into this category that was kind of excluded just like by this class's definition that I took. They were saying that would be nutrient timing now as opposed to like meal timing, just for nomenclature's sake. And this was some of the best data I found for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner stuff.
Well, cool.
So yeah, maybe post workout nutrition might be a good one for another time, because that one is really good. Because for a long time I was personally believing a lot of the stuff that was perpetuated there, that you should go get your shake in within 12 minutes of working out or whatever the popular one was. Get your protein in within 8 minutes of lifting to get the best, whatever it was. So yeah, I'm gonna write that down as a decent one. What was that other one you said, Ryan, that I wanted to write down? Oh yeah, the
Following
celebrities,
The Rock. Yeah.
The Rock or whoever else. Pre and post workout nutrition. Yeah, that'd be a really good one actually. Because I'll bet you, well, it does end up being like a good time to do it, but there's just more nuance to it than that. Well, 7:21. Did we get any other comments in here? I don't think so. Oh, fastest weight loss program. Not a fan of the question. Your goal should not be to lose it as fast as possible. Ever, I don't think.
Sounds like a mindset shift is needed.
How much exercise? What kind of exercise to drop weight? Whatever you like, or whatever you're trying to get better at. Enjoy doing, will do more often, adhere to, sustainable for long periods of time. There's no special. The correct answer to this question is the most calorie intensive exercise, but if you're not going to do that because those types of exercises usually suck, then I would say, yeah, whatever you want to do or like to do. I like lifting and walking myself. Playing sports, golf, basketball, soccer. DB, squats are great for getting the heart racing. Not a fan of cardio, but I do it. But prefer lifting. Nice. Yeah, thanks for coming. That's getting, I think, probably close to a pretty good spot to stop there. Maybe remind everybody that we have Nicole, Dr. Shrednicki, coming on with us next week. I think it's scheduled. I don't see it scheduled here on the home page of Discourse Syndicate, but I'm pretty sure it's scheduled already. So it should pop up very, very soon. June 27, the doctor will be joining us. We'll send out some tweets and stuff for that this week. So get your questions in on that, and we will ask our doctor on call. Other than that, I got nothing else. Eat however many times you want to in a day that allows you to get the right or the necessary amount of calories, and thereby protein, carbs, and fats that you want or that you need to produce the outcome you want. Easy peasy. Well, not easy, but easier said than done. But that is the extremely common answer I feel that we give. You must surf. You must surf. Thank you for being here. Ryan, anything else from you, my friend?
No, man. I think you covered it beautifully. Short and sweet and to the point.
Shall we wrap it there?
Yeah. Let's close it up.
All right. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Like we just said, Nicole Shrednicki, the doctor, on the show next week. Be there. 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We'll see you then.